put on? What is that?
I have gold buttons and everything. Here at Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, we are fashion forward, as you can plainly see. So
Is that double-breasted?
Do you
Nothing personal.
Do you say that to all the guys
Yes.
at your average bar?
Mostly.
Do you
Mostly,
really?
yes, I
Oh,
do.
okay.
Yeah.
And this
I
would
get
be the
beat up a
host of the
lot.
show
I get
talking.
beat up a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
You'd never know it. You
I
still
know.
look the same.
I know. Usually they
that
come.
wasn't a compliment.
Right.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry,
Exactly. Yeah.
David. Okay. Good. Welcome to our show, Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, and as I always promise every week, we're still here. We just freshen up under the desk and all that, but you don't need to know the details.
No.
And,
You don't want to know
like
the
my double
details.
breasts, do you?
Yeah,
And the
I'm
wing
not-
tips too.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything about your wings.
Oh, okay.
What are wingtips?
But that's the other show, right?
Yes.
The other show.
The other show that we do.
At that difficult hour.
Right.
And boy, do we have a blockbuster of a show for you today. We've got
So,
guests from all over the state doing all kinds of important things. We're excited.
So I screwed up wicked bad. This is like the first mistake I think I've ever made.
Wicked bad. That's a superlative around here.
Yeah. Jilletta was invited a while ago, but you were sick that day, and you couldn't make it. And so I says, okay, we'll come at the end of the month, no big deal. And then a news article I saw on Facebook, Bill Kuch, a representative from what town you?
Bo Dunbarton.
Bo Dunbarton,
Good district.
who's running for state senate, was attacked by Dave Booten, who was a former senator from that same district,
Correct.
and called you all kinds of names for not voting for Marcy's Law.
Yeah.
And,
attacked with words, not with.
and, yeah, attacked with really
Pointing
bad
at us,
words,
right.
basically saying he's in support of, I don't know what would.
I don't want to remember it quite
Okay,
frankly, but
it was
bad.
Wow.
it was one of the worst attack ads I've seen in any Republican.
Members of the same party, one goes after the other, way over the top.
It was
I'd
way
say
over the top. It wasn't that, usually the attack ads are, they might have said Bill voted this way, I would have voted this way, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
No, it was basically aligning himself with, basically like Bill was in support of rapists and everything else
Wow, that's
because he didn't support Marcy's Law.
wow. That's not even rabbit punches. That's like swinging after
It
the
was
bell.
not even close. It was so bad. I got very excited and I called him up. I know we've met in the house, but I don't think I really know you.
No, probably not. No, we've passed each other.
Yeah,
in the
because
night.
there's like 400 of us. I don't get to know everybody.
That's true.
And
And-
you've been there 4 years, yeah?
Right, correct.
And,
Yeah,
we were
2
freshmen
terms.
together, I
Yeah,
believe.
Exactly.
Started at the same time, January in 14.
You got it. Oh no, no, that would be 16 January.
January of 15.
15
to
was-
16.
Sorry,
elected
sorry,
in 14.
14
yeah.
elected.
Yeah.
You got it.
That's great.
But anyway, so I saw that attack ad and I says, "Wow, that is so deceptive and such a lie." Because we've done how many shows on Marcy's Law before we voted on it in the House?
I'm going to say
2 or 3
random, At least
least-
it's come up and been discussed with some fervor about 5 times.
Yeah, at
At
least,
least.
yeah. But I know we
It's a
had
big issue.
specific shows about it because there was all that money. I don't know, Jillette, if you remember Marcy's Law too much, but it was
Yeah.
boatloads of money coming from what did you?
California.
From California. What was the character?
I forget his name. All I know is he's been in the paper recently as an alleged drug dealer I think he's from California. He's a billionaire worth 1.5.
Yeah, billionaire drug dealer.
Boy, that's quite an
Alleged.
indictment.
Alleged, yeah.
So's the APA. I mean, what kind of drugs are we talking about?
Hard drugs.
Oh,
Yeah, not
illegal
Ne-
ones.
not-
Yeah, not prescription. Yeah.
Got it.
not marijuana, it was other stuff.
All right.
So anyway, that he came with his billions of dollars to the state of New Hampshire and just poured it into Marcy's Law and bought the Senate
To support it, to promote Marcy's Law.
to support Marcy's Law. But anyway,
Yep.
Jilletta is running for governor in the Libertarian.
Yes, libertarian.
Okay, so there's 2 of you running against one another
Yep.
viciously.
Yep, primary. Viciously?
No, I think I've
we've
seen
been
it.
we have been very civil.
It's
Oh.
the cleanest
I
campaign.
was going to say of the 2
Statewide campaign
gubernatorial
I've seen.
primaries, we have been incredibly civil, very very cordial to one another. We have not attacked one another at all.
Yeah, they've kept it real clean. And,
right.
and
Well,
I'm
maybe we
friends
can
with
put
both
it. Maybe
and,
we can put an end to that tonight.
Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can
You
chastise.
can try.
You guys are irreverent.
Yes, we're pretty bad. We're
That is
really
the
bad.
best euphemism I've heard on this show in a long
Right.
time. We are irreverent.
Yes. Oh, I got a cell phone. No, I
you've
got
done a
wait,
great job.
wait.
The good
shh,
people.
Wait,
and-
stop,
and
stop.
I hope it goes well.
Thank you.
I got a cell phone.
You got you're holding a cell phone.
I got it.
Okay.
I bought it.
Is that like an orangutan holding a copy of Hamlet?
Yeah, it's pretty close. Very, very close, actually, when you consider the capacity of this thing. That is a very
Oh yeah, you're holding
a
Skylab,
very
Gary.
apt
Don't hurt yourself.
a very apt analogy.
Yeah. You're frightening
Get it?
me.
Apt.
Yeah. It's a
Anyway,
good app.
no. See,
So the whole
so
time we've been doing the show, you've been
I've never had a cell
been
phone.
insisting
I
you
did
don't
not
have one,
want a
don't
cell
want one,
phone. I
aren't
never
gonna-
want a cell
ain't gonna do
phone.
it. Why didn't you
Not-
get a Captain Kirk flip phone? It's easier.
No, because
Did you want to type on
no,
the glass? Great
no,
skill.
because I like Bill was invited to the White House a few weeks ago.
You were. I know.
And I went down to the White House, and they would not let us bring a camera in. And the other thing I take pictures with is my tablet, because I like my tablet, because I don't need to pay a monthly fee for it. I just connect to Wi-Fi wherever I go.
So
And they wouldn't let me have my tablet. They wouldn't let me. The only thing I could bring in with me to take pictures was a cell phone.
they proscribe photography, but allow you to keep your devices. That
So did they allow you to
That's
take
interesting.
pictures with your cell phone, or did
Yeah.
they stop you and say,
No.
well, you can have your phone, but
You can't eat it too.
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Right. I
Don't
know.
eat your cell phone.
yet another anachronistic rule. White House. Well,
Okay.
Thanks so much. Well, it's cool. I'm glad you have that. Now,
I'm not. So anyway,
now I can bug you all week.
all week, yes, that
great.
would be. That's exactly why I got
That's
it.
really great.
Huh.
That's really great. Well, Hopper in the Matrix is even deeper in the Matrix.
I know.
God,
I'm
Facebook was
super
suffering
super
enough.
deep. Jiletta's coming back. You said you come back next week because
Yes.
I double booked and I'm a jerk, and I don't have a guest for next week anyway.
A diverse panel.
We have a diverse panel.
Yes,
Yes,
this is
diverse.
good.
This is diversity.
This is
Why
good.
are we shooting for diversity anyway?
I didn't say we're shooting for it. You're the one that scheduled it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
See what I did there.
Anyway,
So
Bill,
let's get back.
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
you're still here.
Told you we'd bring it around. I was like, is this?
I should have watched these things before.
No, yeah, no. You never
This
would have
way
showed
is-
up.
Yes.
Bill's going, I thought this is,
No, so anyway, so what motivated you to run for office to begin with?
Senate or the let's go back
House.
to the
Go to the
for the
House.
house for the
Yeah.
house. You know,
Wayback Machine, 4
I tell
years ago.
yeah, I tell everybody the story. I'm sitting on the sofa at home, saying bad things to the television, watching politics.
Yes.
And I said I can either do this or I can do something.
Right.
So I met somebody at a Bow Community Men's Club meeting that talked about the House of Representatives and what people do there. And I walked over to him. I said, "What can I do to help?" And he says, "Run." And I said, "No."
No, that's stupid.
Yeah, it is
That's
stupid.
crazy.
But then I thought about it for a while, and I said, why not?
Because you needed the $100.
Yeah, no, actually, you know that $100 is $200, and after they take the taxes out, it's $187 for the
Right.
2 years,
but-
right?
yeah.
So-
well, also you got to pay for your
That
own
much,
plate, so
yeah,
that's
yeah,
another
your license
20
plates are
bucks
$9
down.
or whatever.
So it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
$80 a year.
Yeah, whatever. But seriously, I looked into it, and I said, maybe I can. Oh, I hate this term, but make a difference.
Right.
So I pay my $2 to the town clerk. But I was telling Eric before I even ran, I wasn't a Republican. I was an independent, or undeclared, as they call it, right?
sure.
Right.
So I said, you got to take a party.
You got to pick your poison.
Yeah. So I'm a constitutional conservative. So Republican fits me, or I fit the Republican.
Closer. It's closer anyway.
Much closer. Much closer, trust me. So I did that, and did my $2, and then learned about, got to buy some signs, you need palm cards, you need to go, not need to, I did, knocked on doors, and lo and behold, surprise to me and everybody else, I won.
It's pretty.
And did you win against somebody that was a known quantity in your district?
I'm trying to think. No, not
Someone
your.
named-
It was myself, J.R. Hull, and John Martin with the 3 Republicans. We got through the primary.
Yeah.
And we took the whole slate in the general election.
Right, right.
On the Democrat side, I don't know. They weren't known. They were new people also.
Okay.
And then you turned around and did it again 2 years later.
And because somebody told me, that was a fluke, Bill. You'll never win again. So the next time I ran, instead of coming in second, I came in first. So,
Over JR.
yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Who's a good man.
He's a very
stirred
good
up
man.
some
And
controversy,
JR
but
and-
he's an active guy.
Yeah, and J.R. and John Martin had a recount, if you remember, or you might not remember.
No, I
Oh,
don't.
it was a matter of 5 or 10 votes different. John was ahead of the game, but after recount, J.R. they flip so many votes.
I see.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And it was interesting. The recount is very interesting. Have you ever been through one
Yeah,
of those?
yeah, I've
yeah.
been through it for me.
Oh, okay. I was
Twice.
okay because I had enough votes, but looking at the ballots, I'm going, wait a minute, what's wrong with this? Dem, vote for Bill Cook. Dem. So some Democrats jumped. They went the other way, I'm sure, also, but that encouraged me, you know. So, you know, as they say, all politics is local. So the more people you see, the more chance you have of winning.
Yep.
So,
Right.
anyway, that's where I got to that. And I was going to retire this year. And then a couple of conservative groups said, Bill, why don't you consider running for Senate? And I thought about it for a long time, and I discussed it with the family also. And it was a tough decision, all right?
It's a lot of work.
Definitely a lot of work. I'm not complaining about it, but I know it's a lot of work. And I had to strike a balance. I have a family, and I enjoy my grandkids. We had planned a trip with one of the grandkids to go out west in my RV. I have a motorhome.
Yeah.
And I had to cancel that. I canceled lots of things. But this is important. I would like to see a conservative back in District 16 seat. Right now, there's a gentleman named Kevin Kavanaugh, whom I'm sure is a very nice person, but he's very far left of center.
Right.
And I'm very far right of center. So I decided to run. Hence, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, if nothing else, you're giving voters an opportunity for picking a different poison, different poison. That's not the right word.
Well,
Call it what you
we
want.
are
Yeah,
talking
call it what you
politics
want.
here, so
Call it what you want.
it fits. A rose by any
But so
other
far,
name.
it's been interesting because in Bow and Dunbarton, well, that's a smaller area, a smaller district. Now I cover Manchester's wards 1, 2, and 12.
Right.
And then you got Candia and Hooksett. And I'm meeting all sorts of neat, interesting people. So,
bet.
and we get to ask them, I get to ask them questions, what do you think about the state? What's your number one issue? And when I win, I will be able to take that to the Senate and maybe act upon
What
those
do you
things.
hear? What do
So
you
what are
actually?
you-
Yeah.
Same question.
Yeah, same
What are
question.
you hearing from your constituents?
Number one issue, by far, well, how do we want to call it? The opioid crisis? I hate the word crisis, but the drug issue.
Sure.
Yeah.
The drug problem. People say we're ruining our next generation. Or, we're losing too many people to this.
So uniformly, and the demographic mix in your district is pretty broad.
Yeah, it is.
You've got rural and as well as urban or
Right.
semi-urban.
Right.
So they're all saying that, huh?
Yeah. Not all, but that's the number one issue.
Sure.
I mean, and then the next one is taxes. That always comes up when you see. Of course, I'm only banging on Republican doors right now for the
Yeah,
primary.
yeah.
So, but yeah, the opioid issue is, or the drug issue.
Well, almost everybody knows somebody either directly or indirectly has died.
Yeah,
It's horrible.
I don't.
It's huge.
I don't. I'm glad I don't.
Yeah.
Thank God. But I understand the problem. I understand it's bad. And I've had the opportunity to live in 5 different countries in my lifetime. One of those is the U.S., but the other 4 never had drug problems. And I wonder if we can use any of their ideas
Which
here.
other countries? Because I know in Indonesia, the head of Indonesia has a very, very effective way to deal with the drug problem.
It's the same as Singapore. That's one of the countries I lived in.
Yeah.
I'm
Singap-
guessing it's pretty hard.
Well, no, yeah, in Singapore they just hang you.
If you're a user or a dealer?
No,
Dealer.
if with possession with intent to distribute, if you're a dealer, with
If you're
so
a-
many grams or kilos or
Yeah,
whatever.
a dealer in
that's-
Indonesia isn't even tried; they're just shot.
That's so draconian because as we all know, there's a lot
It's a
of...
libertarian. You find this little.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
Yeah, I find that very disturbing, yes.
Well, the
But-
problem is that you know that some people will deal out of a sense of necessity because they're trying to earn their next fix. And so they're putting themselves in a...
Yeah, but
with
if they
their-
know
their
they're
own
going to
heads
get
in a noose.
shot, they might be.
Wait a minute, this is going out over the air. I'm not suggesting we kill drug dealers. Will you get to, please?
That's why some people get alarmed at these ideas.
I'm just saying, don't tell me you can't fix the problem. You can, but to use your term, it's draconian. I mean,
Yeah.
and then on the user side, some of the other countries I lived in, by the way, were Thailand. Hong Kong was a colony when I lived there, a British colony, and
Sure.
Switzerland. So,
The Swiss.
yeah, very nice place, by the way.
Yeah. Very orderly.
Some people deal with the users in a different way too. They have a tough love attitude towards it. Okay, you get hooked the first time, we're going to help you. We're going to put you through the whole program, whatever, and that's fine. Second time, We put you in a padded cell with doctor supervision, overseeing, and you withdraw.
You tough it out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've been told, I don't know, have any personal experience. You do that 2 or 3 times, you don't ever want to do drugs again. I've been told. I don't
Yeah,
know if true.
that's not. I've dealt with this a lot.
Okay.
I've met a lot of people that have worked with people that I didn't know after I talked to them whether they were going to die that night.
Really?
I mean, and I've known a family member who has just almost reached a year sobriety. They lost 2 of their friends in this year that they've become sober. I will tell you that it is not what you're told. It is not a physical addiction. It is not a mental addiction. Yes, it is, in that that those are variables, but they're minor variables. Within, if you lock somebody up for a month, by the end of the month they'll be basically not physically addicted or mentally addicted. Okay? But they will still be, there's a spiritual part of this that nobody deals with. And the state can't, because it can't recognize there is spiritual anything. And it is the addiction itself, as if there is a ravenous wolf trying to kill somebody. It is trying to stick their head in the water and drown them to death. And every time they get too close, it grabs them and puts them under again. And that attraction of my analogy that I came up with a while ago is, and this is the only one that it seems to fit well, is it's, if you can picture that first lover you had when you were a teenager who just wants you to come back to bed, and they love you and they call you all the time and say, I still miss you. It'll be different this time. And they talk in a very sweet, loving voice, and they want to bed you again. They want you back, and all their intention is to kill you. That's all they want. It is seductive, it is horrible, and it is death. You are flirting with death, and it's a spiritual disease, and we're not dealing with it. That's why we spend the taxpayer money to put somebody through a 28-day program. We could teach them karate for a month. It would not make any difference. After the months, they would be feeling strong. They would be feeling healthy. They would feel like they could conquer the world. But as soon as they go back to their house, start talking to their friends, that seductive voice starts talking to them again, and they're done.
So what's the best solution?
Best,
a cultural shift?
first talk about the solution, the truth, that it's a spiritual problem, not a physical one. Second, I think your idea is probably the most logical, which is the tough love. But that first stay that the state helps you should be 28 days in a treatment center, so you can stay away from it.
Right.
And then a halfway house halfway across the state, so you don't connect with your same friends as soon as you get out. If you can get somebody sober for a year, they have a real good chance of breaking that abusive relationship. If you put them back in the same community, you just threw away your money.
Yeah, okay. I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
I think you also need to make sure that when they leave the program, they are working. So
Follow up.
You need counselors to help get them into a job. You need someone to follow up, to be support, so that if they start to feel that pull, they have someone to call and talk them out of it.
Yep.
You can't just say, okay, you finished
Good
the
luck.
treatment.
Good luck.
Go. Off
You're
you
so
go.
healthy.
Have fun. I know that you're fine now, so you'll never go back to it, because we're setting them up for failure.
Yep.
And if we just put them back into that same apartment, that same situation that they
Same
were in
friends.
beforehand, they're going to go back to it. And it's because their life situation is what drew them into it to begin with.
Sometimes.
I was going to say, unless it was a prescription that got out of control, or,
Yep.
but most of the time, if it's not a prescription that got out of control, it's a lifestyle where they were depressed, things were going wrong, and this was the solution that
Was
they
their
found.
out.
This
That was their
my
way out.
I don't want to deal with this, so I'm going to take this to get rid of the thoughts, the feelings that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah, a lot of the reason people turn to drugs, it's self-medicating.
Yep.
They've got anxiety issues. PSTD is a big cause of it, and the medication dulls that anxiety, and it's
Sure.
a real deal. But if you, like you say, if you put somebody back in that situation with no follow-up, they're not going to AA meetings or NA meetings or HA meetings or some sort of meeting where they get to know people. If they don't have follow-up, somebody's calling them, and maybe, like I think a big deal is as random piss tests to make sure that they're not. But if you don't have some sort of follow-up after that 28-day program, there's really no point in spending money on a 28-day program.
So should the state, in your opinion, Bill, should the state pay more attention to the causal factors, and to what extent can the state participate in providing solutions for those causal factors?
I don't know the answer to that yet.
Yeah,
mean,
I
what
think
we're
that's the
doing
big
now
open
is
question.
not working, right?
Sure.
I mean, I think we can agree upon that. And please don't, again, I don't want to see drug dealers hung. Please. I don't
So
want the
noted. Got it?
I don't want the
Got it?
message to get
Got
out
it,
there.
okay.
I'm
I
just saying,
can't
however,
wait to see your opponent's caught and picking flyer next week.
Dave Booten, you watching? Fresh meat.
Fresh-
oh my goodness.
Man.
So we have a politically self-admitted, mostly independent, constitutionalist-oriented voice, right, at the table.
Okay.
Talking about this issue,
Right.
and somebody who is big L libertarian has chosen to run, definitely representing the libertarian platform, sensibility, and ideas. We're talking about the opiate crisis. What have we said at this table that in any way runs afoul of the libertarian notion for solutions in this area? Or are there more things to be said that we're overlooking?
Well, so far, all we've really said is that we don't have the solution that we have right now, which is send out more money to police to go out and arrest people, doesn't necessarily work. It's unfortunately been proven many times that people who weren't addicted before they went into jail sometimes come out addicted. It's easy access in the prison system,
Which is
unfortunately.
there is something seriously.
There really
I
is.
don't know. I do know that some prisoners come in with the stuff in their body, and then release it. I'll be polite later. Okay.
Mules.
But that is only a small. Can
That's only
only
a
be a
small
small percentage. That means to me that either somebody working at that prison is dealing. If that is the case, those people should be
Removed.
Bill. Would we shoot those?
Consequences.
No,
You're
removed.
the one that said
There
shoot,
should
remember?
be consequences. Well, no. The
Profound consequences.
the problem is
this
a
like
deep
so far beyond.
systemic social problem, and it extends into
Yeah,
the
but this
prison
is
system. Of
but
course.
something like that is so far beyond the guy on the street who is just trying to keep high and start selling a little heroin to keep his high, and some scumbag at a prison who is feeding it to people he's killing.
It's a
He
messed up.
knowingly is killing them.
We're definitely in a messed up culture, and
It is amazing.
it's a good thing we're all sitting here kicking around solutions because somebody's got to do it.
Well,
I'm
there's
not very passionate about that.
Yeah, no,
not at all. I can tell.
There's also I think it was Portugal, who had such a high percentage of addiction in their country that 1 in 10 people either were suffering from addiction or had a close relative who was.
Right.
It was that bad. And they actually turned the point of saying, okay, so what we're doing isn't working. We have to do something drastic. And what they did was say, okay, so taking drugs is no longer illegal. We're legalizing everything. And they did it all at once. They didn't legalize selling drugs. They legalized taking drugs. And what would happen is if you were caught with either getting high in public or with more than 10 days worth of a substance on you, then you were sent to a drug court. It was not a judge situation where if you were convicted of doing this that you would be sent to jail. Instead, they would say, okay, so you have been caught with public intoxication of a substance, and now you have to go to treatment. You must check yourself in.
Yep.
But they didn't say you're going straight there from here. They would say you have this many days to get into a treatment center. And at the end of that time, an official would come and knock on your door and say, so I'm here to make sure that you get to your treatment center. Have you gone yet? And if they said no, they say, okay, well, we're going to take you down then there. And
Down
they
in
would
there?
down there then.
She spent time on the west side.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Sorry.
There we go. See?
I don't mean to it.
It's my diversity. No. Diversity of words, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't
Accent.
throw it there down the stairs, my hammer and me.
So they would take them to the treatment center. They would get them checked
Do you
in.
use a mattoe or a hammer?
Stop it. Just stop.
No, I use a hammer.
Okay, just checking.
I'm going to throw you down the stairs, my hammer and me.
The mattoe.
So I'm not saying that we need to go
Who's over
that
here going,
extreme
this
yet,
is happening.
but
Yeah.
focusing more on treatment instead of on incarceration, and taking those funds that we're using for incarceration right now and switching them over to treatment can be a beneficial switch. And if we increase our access to mental health care, we might actually prevent people who are in that position of being so incredibly depressed and
Sure.
just out of sorts that they seek refuge in these substances,
Yeah,
that
but-
they can get help before they get to that point.
I know that the mental health issue is a big one. I know that, like, currently you got, for serving, I think the greater Manchester area is like Manchester Mental Health. And you'll have a kid go there, and if they don't get along with their counselor, there really isn't any alternative, so there's no other counselor. And if they do find a counselor they get to know and start to work with, they move out of there because they're not getting paid that much. It's like a stepping stone. So you have a kid that's in crisis, or might be having PSTD, or might be a future victim of heroin or drugs, really doesn't have access to any kind of anything to try to prevent that ever from happening. But we're going to run out of time. I really want to, because you're coming back next week, and you can and we can fight. And you can insult.
Well, no.
You can insult your opponent relentlessly.
Jilletta made a really good point. We'll move on. We got on the opiate thing, and we're covering it
Yeah.
because it's your district's
Yeah.
number one issue,
It is.
and it's a good thing we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But I do know that statistically, the rate of addiction in Portugal plummeted to
Yes, it
the point
did.
where, compared to other Western countries like ours, it was virtually non-existent.
Yeah.
It was so statistically low that it was ridiculous. So their policies worked for their country. So
Yeah.
it's a cautionary tale. Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's
We'll
worth studying. It's
Yeah.
worth looking
It's worth
at.
It
Yeah,
is.
just like Bill said, other countries are doing something right, so
Yeah.
we should look
But
at
by
that.
by this, I don't want to get off too far on it, but I do know, and I'm going to end with this, is that in the opiate war was in China, where the English government couldn't find something to compensate the fact that the Chinese were selling all the tea to England, and the Chinese didn't want anything back, so the English got them addicted to opium, and then forced them to allow, because it was destroying society, because it was legal, but so many people were doing opium, their production and everything else was going down, families were dissolving, and it was destroying society. And so the Chinese government says, that's it, no more opium, and that's when the English used gunship diplomacy to force them to actually accept
I
the...
thought the English had a sterling record of benevolence in their imperialism
Yes, you would
Yeah.
think, but no.
Throughout their-
So anyway,
empire.
Bill,
Yes, sir.
the attack on you, the unmitigated BS attack on you over Marcy's Law. I wanted to talk a little bit about that so the voters know, because it's been a while since we covered it.
Right.
So Marcy's Law was brought to us by a gentleman from California.
Right.
Like you said, he's been charged with, I think, multiple drug problems, prostitution problems, and all kinds of other
How
garbage.
can an out-of-state person, random person who happens to be into drugs and have money, impact New Hampshire legislative activities so profoundly? Explain that to me.
Follow the money.
Payola, huh?
Yeah, follow the money.
Big bucks.
Okay.
So they bought off, they bought off most of the lobbyists at the State House, I think except one. I'm not positive about that.
Wait a
Maybe
minute,
somebody
these
called in.
lobbyists are law firms. They're reputable. How can this be? I've met
Yes,
them
You just said law firm and reputable at the same.
in the same sentence.
Come on.
That's right.
Come on. That's like your comment about the English.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
anyway,
sure is.
so most of the lobbying firms at the State House were on board. You had I've forgotten her name. The lady against domestic violence. Her name skips my mind. But anyway, she was paid a lot of money. Jennifer Horn started a group, and she was paid a lot of money. Yeah, and then there was former Congressman
Interesting.
Chuck Douglas was paid quite a few $1,000s. So you had all these people. It's this bill, Marcy's Law, sailed through the Senate 20-3.
Right.
20-3.
And I could probably name those three, but
Yeah, no,
we'll
the
move
three
on.
actually, as much as I'm not crazy about Andy Sanborn, he was one of the three.
Oh,
But I'm not gonna. I am.
but his
gonna-
voting record isn't crazy. It's real good.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. And
And
Andy
it is.
Sanborn was one of them.
Ginta,
Kevin Avard,
Kevin Avard.
because he's an honorable dude,
He's my senator.
and Senator Bob
Senator
Guida.
Bob Guida. Yeah,
Those
exactly.
are the three. Those are the only three that didn't vote for this.
Because
There
they
was-
read it?
Yeah, they read
They
it.
must have.
And it was amazing. So it comes to my committee. They tried to game the system by not sending it to judiciary. They tried to get it to just go to criminal justice, where they already had at least one or two sponsors that were members of criminal justice, even though the subject matter of Marcy's Law was clearly a judiciary type bill. It's a
Yeah.
type bill that we would have. Ordinarily, there wouldn't have been any question on whether or not it went to our committee or not.
See, that's the thing, folks, out there in TV land. There's so much inside baseball on that campus at the State House. I mean, you see the PR campaign where they give everything a makeover, those that want to promote something. And they'll call it what they want to call it, and they'll say what they want to say about it so that you get a certain impression. Believe me, there's a lot that goes on there, and it's all about reading the language.
So Marcy's Law, they ended up compromising and sent it to a joint committee of Judiciary and Criminal Justice. And I remember it distinctly because I'd read it. This is the first legislation that I think I've actually been afraid of because it was so profoundly bad.
You were pretty worked up there for
I was very worked up because
a month and a half.
Yeah, because I knew the PR. I knew that if it got to the voters, you would have Chris Sununu hugging some lady who's the victim of sexual assault or something, and there would be millions of dollars in back of it.
Yep.
And that's all the voters would hear from all the way through October and into the first week in November.
Vote against
When-
this, you're against women and kids,
Yeah, if
women
you-
and kids,
if
women
you-
and kids.
if- yeah, they would, that flyer that came out to attack you.
That's
that would
essentially
be-
what it said. Yeah,
That would be across the
I'm
state.
anti-family.
You're anti-family.
Yeah, it conflated the idea of taking away due process from a system that's perched very delicately on the precepts of due process. Taking that out of the equation and conflating that with, supporting people who have been hurt or harmed by a perpetrator. It's absurd.
Right, I know. You weren't the only one that read it, apparently, because 220 of us voted against it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. By the
Only-
time it got to the House floor, we had totally butchered it.
That's a great outcome.
The Judiciary Committee was basically a legislative wood chipper.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, and but I still was until that vote. I was not sure.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I knew I knew the optics, and the optics are exactly what you saw in your attack ad.
Yeah.
The optics are, this is about victims. It had nothing to do with victims.
Optics being PR, it's the same idea. Just
The
so-
PR was beautiful for this, but the reality was, it was so bad.
So here it is after the fact, like 6 months after the fact, maybe 5 after that vote,
Right.
4 or 5, whatever it is. And a Republican contender for that Senate seat, wants a Senate seat back, actually had the temerity to go public saying that since you voted against it, and basically to fall back on the same talking points again, to drag all that hyperbole out of cobwebs and try it again on you.
Yep. Unfortunately.
You know what
Well-
makes me wonder if he got any money from the people of Marcy's Law?
Well, it seems goofy since the thing was defeated, so
Yeah.
why would he
No,
do
but
that?
you don't think, oh, they're going to introduce it again?
Well, yeah.
Okay,
Do
so.
you really think that?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Because
absolutely.
overwhelmingly, we blew it up.
It got
Right.
a black eye. It got exposed for
It
what
got
it was.
exposed, but the guy's he's a billionaire. He can keep throwing money at this till this. Other states where this is passed, it is so bad that the legislators realized that they screwed up after they passed it, and they tried to get back in and fix it. That same dirtbag from California spent a boatload of money to make sure none of them got back into office. It is too much money. So anyway, just to highlight some of the things that this actually did versus the PR. One, it gave complete immunity to all. You'll love this as a libertarian. This bill, if it had passed, would have given complete immunity to the cops, to the courts, to city agencies.
In many instances, yes.
Yeah, complete immunity. Most constitutional amendments protect people's rights from the government. This one protect the government from the people. That's the last.
That's
third
the
of bill.
synopsis.
I've spoken out against this bill many times,
Yeah.
actually.
I
Okay.
figured you were pretty familiar. Yeah, it's pretty onerous.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And the thing that bothers me the most is the fact that they say if you don't vote for it, then you are supporting rapists and child abusers and
It's
murderers.
a great bumper sticker.
Yeah.
People like those.
Yeah.
Didn't go over too well in my family's house, you know.
I don't doubt it.
yeah, that's gotta really be aggravating for your family. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're running for the Senate seat, first time you've run for the Senate, you've been in the House for 4 years.
Correct.
And, I mean, I remember being a freshman, just like yesterday, it was great, with wide eyes, we're learning and all that.
For
and
sure.
Learning procedure. And it's just biting off it's biting off a lot to chew, because as Gary said, it's a big job, much bigger than being in the House for most reps.
Yeah,
Some
well, you
some reps
represent
work a
more
lot,
people.
but
Yeah.
60,000 people on average, right?
Correct.
And you spend about as many thousands of dollars to try to get into office,
Yeah, that's
potentially.
something I'm having difficulty with.
Well,
You know, spend $50,000 for a job that pays $100 a year. I mean, really, there's something wrong.
no, that's absurd.
Yeah.
What are some of the
Wait, no,
personal
no, no.
goals? You
No.
got a question?
Yeah, no, I
Okay, go
want to
ahead.
continue this. I want to make sure
Marcy's
I
law.
want to make sure the voters understand what was in Marcy's law
Okay.
and why his vote was absolutely the right thing to do.
Appreciate
Okay,
that.
So we have 1/3 of the bill was just to protect the state from the people. It expanded the breadth and scope of what a victim was. Most people, like in the flyer, assume that victim is a victim of sexual abuse or rape or whatever. It was not.
A material event.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was any crime, so that could be somebody doing a breaking and entering, or somebody stealing a pack of gum from Walmart, and so it increased the scope of who a victim was. It increased the scope in that it also said anybody tangentially affected by a crime.
That's right.
Okay, so it wasn't just the person that you punched in the nose at Walmart, it was everybody around them that were offended, and your mother who was upset because you were punched right in front of her. So now they're all victims. Walmart's a victim because they lost sales because of this incident that made the papers, because people feel unsafe going there. So you have this huge, broad spectrum of victimhood.
It was going to lead to a more litigious environment, right? Yeah. Great.
The governor of this state sat there in that committee on the first day of that committee. He brings his entourage of victims, and all these victims' rights organization makes this big fanfare, sits down. Paul Birch, Representative Paul Birch, who was a Democrat, really nice guy. We disagree on a lot of stuff, but he's a good
I
guy.
like arguing with him.
Yeah, I do too. He's wonderful. So Paul Burt says, it's basically laid what I just laid out about the victimhood, and says, Governor, later on in Marcy's law, it says that any victim shall have quick or whatever word compensation for the crime done to them. If you're going to increase the breadth and scope of what a victim was from the crimes and who is a victim, and now the state is the only one with pockets deep enough to actually pay them compensation, who's going to pay for this? The governor of the state, you know how like in Shakespeare, there's that quote, "Methinks thou protest too much."
Thou dost protest too much.
Thou dost protest, you would know better than me. But anyway, thou dost protest too much. It's the idea that when somebody gets very boisterous about their reaction to a question, it usually means they're lying.
They're full of it.
They're absolutely full of it. So Governor Sununu sits there in our committee and gets really upset, really, exaggerates the situation and talks about the victims, and then he says, our sitting Republican governor says to a Democratic state representative, thinking about the money is the old way of doing things.
You were there.
I was flabbergasted. I mean, that's like he lied to the committee. That's a lie. He is covering up the truth by trying to make everybody feel guilty.
It was his way of saying the crux of this proposal is about moral considerations more than it is about fiscal considerations.
Yeah, but that's
what he
not.
was saying.
Yeah, no. He was saying,
I don't agree
you
with
caught
him,
me
but
with my
that's what he
pants down, and I'm going to make you feel guilty for asking.
That too. So all this chicanery.
No, it gets worse.
Your opponent tried to hang this around your neck as if it was somehow a liability on your part.
Well, I guess so. That's the way it looks.
And it backfired.
Hopefully.
No, hopefully.
I hope it does.
Anyway,
I hope
it gets worse from there. Okay, so then I'm trying to keep this quick. Believe it or not.
Passionate about this.
From then the next week.
So pleased you joined us for our 2-hour show, folks. This
Yeah,
marathon.
exactly.
It's something we've been working up to for a while.
The Marcy's Marathon.
Marcy's Marathon.
So then
We're glad you're here.
the next week,
Drugs and victims. You chose the right show. Do go on.
they knew that Marcy's Law was on life support.
Yeah.
So they send in the Attorney General. My mentor on the Judiciary Committee is Claire Rollard. Claire Rollard asked our sitting Attorney General about one segment of a sentence in Marcy's Law. Could you read that?
Oh, yeah. This is interesting.
Claire Rollard is a great state
I love
rep, by
her.
the way.
The victim, the victim's attorney or other lawful representative, or the attorney for the government upon request of the victim may assert in any trial or appellate court or before any other authority with jurisdiction over the case and have enforced, here's the key words, the rights enumerated in this section and any other right afforded to the victim by law.
Okay, so that sentence, she asked the Attorney General, she read that sentence. We got, what? How much? 30 seconds?
No, just ignore that.
Thanks, Paul.
Scared me.
Thanks for that
Thanks,
hard
Paul.
attack.
Much further than 30 seconds. to
Yeah,
go.
okay, I'm sorry. Okay, we get a signal for the viewers. Paul usually tells us when it's 5 minutes, and then there's a sign that just came
Figuratively,
up.
our engineer
30
just
seconds.
ripped
that
Gary
was-
in the...
That was a.
That was
Gary
like,
in the
holy
Texas.
moly! I'm like halfway through.
You
Okay, so,
have much further than that to go.
all
Carry
right.
on.
Sorry about that. Anyway,
Giving him license to rant, Paul.
no, shh. Oh, that was Paul's way of saying I got about 30 seconds left of how much I'm
Yeah,
putting up with.
otherwise the hook comes
The
out.
hook comes
okay,
out.
Mr. Marcy?
Okay, so anyway, so Claire Rollard asked the Attorney General of the state, points out that sentence, and says, Mr. Attorney General, by reading that, doesn't that infer that every law on the books relative to victims has constitutional parity? Not only any law that's on the books, any law that we write in the future about victims now becomes absolutely constitutional. It supersedes law. And he just sat there
That was Claire's analysis and her synopsis of that.
That is
piece
what
of
that
language?
says.
What a great question, Claire.
Oh, it was
You legal
beautiful.
eagle.
It was like a Perry Mason moment. It was
brilliant.
it was brilliant.
All right.
And the Attorney General just sat there dumbfounded because he didn't think about it.
Representative Roulard's stock just went way up. Attorney General,
no, I
not
love
so
that
much.
lady.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are just a few of the profound consequences of Marcy's Law. And if former Senator Booton really thinks he would have voted for that, he's a moron.
And if he threw that in your face publicly, as if to cause your reputation to falter, boy.
That is so sleazy.
I don't know.
He either knew how bad it was and attacked you anyway, which makes him a liar, in which case, why would you want to vote for somebody who's a liar? Or he's totally ignorant to the bill, in which case, why would you attack somebody on a specific bill if you're completely unfamiliar with it? That makes you incompetent.
Gary, I'm going to go way out on a limb here. We're being a little rough on Mr. Booton, so I think it's fair for us to, if he ever sees this show, if he happens to see this show anytime in the near future, if you wish to rebut some of these
Call in.
some of these
The number's
analyses,
on.
feel free to
I
call in.
posted that on Facebook. I linked him to it. He can call in right now and defend himself.
Maybe we can even arrange for you to come on the show, say what you have to say about it. I don't know how much time's left before
We
the
only got 1 week.
primary, but you know, your name's. Yeah, 30 seconds. Your name's come up a lot. I think it's only fair that we
It is
say
fair,
that,
yeah,
that,
fair.
that you deserve a forum to rebut, so feel free to make use
Why,
of
you
it.
got your own show that I don't know about?
I'm
Anyway,
gonna-
so,
I'm going to start it right now.
sorry.
It's going to be a 3-hour show.
I got nothing else to do. What the heck?
What
you
are
know?
some of the other I'm going to pivot here. What are some of the other things you hope to accomplish? Assuming that you get elected.
Right.
Wouldn't that be great? That'd be nice. Be fellow freshman, so I'm pulling for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, sincerely. And it's a big and diverse district you've got there.
Yeah, I know.
It really is. You get in, we all as legislators have pet concerns and priorities of our own, things that we care about. Are there any particular issues or areas of
Yeah,
legislative concern?
having sat on the Science, Technology, and Energy
Sure.
Committee, I'm really concerned about electric rates in this state. You know, one of the highest.
So are all the small business owners.
Yeah, I know, I understand. And hopefully, come veto day, we will uphold the governor's vetoes on SB 446 and 365.
We want to explain those.
All right, the 365 is the wood chip fired plants that
Biomass.
biomass. Thank you very much. That are in existence only because they sell electricity to the distribution companies at above market rates.
Yep.
And I don't have all the numbers, but you can find them on Facebook. There's talk about that all the time. Like, over the years, we put $8 billion to keep those plants going.
Right.
And I find that rather sneaky. You know, it's sort of a tax, but it winds up on your electric bill, and you really don't see it. You know, it's not called out.
How does that comport with Article 10 of the Constitution?
Which one? State
Article
Constitution?
10 says you cannot use the state for the private emolument of any class of people, persons. So in other words, are we spending money, giving it to a private company? We're using the state's money to give to a
Oh,
private.
it's not the state's money. No. It's the ratepayers' money. It's on your electric bill. So it's state. There's no state funds in there.
Oh, okay.
So
I
your
guess-
electric bill is a little bit higher because Eversource has to pay above market rates. Eversource doesn't care.
Yeah, but no,
They-
but
they just pass it on to you.
You're still using the state to force that electric company
Oh,
to
I
buy
see.
that resource.
That's never come up in the committee. Interesting point. It might be worth looking at.
The heavy hand of the law to
Yeah.
compel this arrangement.
Yeah.
Because Article 6 is very, very clear. That's why I didn't vote to fund Dean Kamen's project.
Right.
Because how can you...
You're consistent.
No, I'm not. Ask my kids.
You lead a double life. You go home and you're all
Yes.
over the place.
Oh,
right?
yeah, all over
So anyway,
the place.
that's one of my pet issues.
Uh-huh.
Another pet issue, which is totally personal. How do we set the prices or the prices for vehicles when we pay our registration fee in the town? Let me give you an
Oh,
ex-
yeah, okay,
That
okay.
drives me nuts. I bought a motorhome, and I'll use some real numbers, okay? And you know, I've spent my life savings on this thing, $83,000.
Yeah.
Okay? Nice, Rick. I go to town to register it, and they say, okay, we're going to tax you on $125,000. What? I said, here's the invoice. No. We take the list price. Well, any idiot who's ever had a motorhome knows whatever you see on the list, you first knock off 30% and then you negotiate. So I'd like to fix that somehow.
Oh, municipal grabbiness.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You know, so I paid for $40,000 of nothing, tax on $40,000 of nothing. So I'd like to see some reconciliation or normalization. Now, automobiles is the same thing, I admit, but you don't get 30%.
That's actually kind of a tough one. Okay, so Jilletta goes to the town hall, and she's got a $10,000 vehicle.
Right.
And so they says, well, we looked at your Honda, it's worth $10,000. She goes, oh no, I've got a receipt. I paid $5,000 for this. If they said, oh, okay, everybody would come in with a receipt that said $2,000.
Well, no, that would be fraud, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, so that's new.
Well,
I didn't say I had the answer to this, but other states do things like they charge half on for an RV because they understand that you only use it 6 months out of the year.
sure.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know what the answer is yet. I don't know what the answer, but I'd like to look into it. And you know what happens? And luckily, I don't do it. Is some people register their vehicles in other states.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So
I'd rather bring those vehicles back here with a reasonable tax amount than have them registered out of
That's
state.
true. So you did kill two birds with one stone. The listeners and viewers get to know you a little bit better and what are the things that you want to personally accomplish, and the fact that you're also listening to them.
Yeah.
So
I belong to an RV club, and that's, part of their complaint is this doesn't seem quite fair. And it's not. I don't think it is.
that's the way up.
Jilletta,
Hey, we got 3 minutes.
I know we got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You're very quiet.
I don't have an RV.
Oh, and you know what they'll tell you?
Or life savings, so, we're pretty good there.
Well, no, what they'll tell you, go in, you talk about it in the committee, say, well, anybody that can afford an RV is a millionaire anyway. They don't think about...
No,
Yeah,
not true.
exactly, that's exactly what happens.
trying to get away from the ethos of having to be a millionaire.
Yeah, I know.
Land and property is expensive.
Yeah, so you save your whole life for something, and then you go, oh, my goodness, I gotta pay $2,500 to register this thing?
Yikes.
Wow. Every year?
It goes down, no, it does go down, but the first year was $2,500.
Uh,
I think we're down to $1,800.
that's half.
That is
half
municipal
a
grabbiness.
house.
Yeah.
It just really is.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it is like a house.
It's gouginess.
Yeah, so I'd like to look into that.
So are we gonna be able to have Jilletta back?
Yes.
Next week?
Can,
Yeah.
can you come back next week?
Can you join us?
Wait. I gotta
It's
ask.
the last
wait,
interview
I
before
gotta-
the primary.
I know. I gotta ask
Wow.
this. I gotta ask this though. Now that you know what the show's like, are you still gonna come back next week?
You gonna wear a hazmat suit? Hockey mask?
Hey,
Something?
on Eric's note, before we run out of time,
The thumb.
Eric's note,
Thumb wrestle.
I was brutal to former Senator Booton because of how he attacked you.
Okay.
If he had sent out a flyer that said that Bill voted against Marcy's law, I would have voted for it. I think that was the right thing to do. I would have still had you on, but I would not have been gone for the jugular. But the fact that he basically said you're allied with rapists and all this other crap is so profoundly over the top and such a lie.
Well, he waited for you around the corner, figuratively, with a baseball bat,
Yeah.
And you came
So
around the
it
corner
was-
and he whacked you.
So it
That's
was
not cool.
What was done was not fair. It was not even close, and it was entirely and deliberately deceptive, and that's why I'm sorry.
So,
I don't care. I don't care.
Fellow-
Whatever. You
fellow-
can be mad at
fellow
me. Whatever.
Republican, Dave Booton, if
you're gonna lie- if
wanna
you're gonna
rebut this
lie
or
about people,
got something
then
to say,
tough
feel
luck.
free. Call in. This show's
It's
almost
called
over.
tough love.
We got next week. Hope you don't.
It's tough love, really. I just want him to, learn how to be nice.
Well, now he knows the gauntlet's down. If he wants to do
Gauntlet's down
something
if you
about
want,
it,
yeah.
we got 30 seconds in closing. Since this is
All about me.
We're talking
all about
mostly
you,
about
Bill.
you.
It's all
Well, no, I
about-
appreciate
Anything you'd like the viewers?
No, I
your
appreciate
constituents
coming
to say.
on. We mentioned before, I said there's $50,000 to run for a...
Yeah.
I'm doing this grassroots, so, I don't want a well, you can't get a $20,000 donation anyway,
Right.
but,
Real quick.
you know, $10, $50, that's fine. BillCook.com.
BillCook.com.
Okay,
Perfect.
BillCook.com.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Gary.
Wait, Jilletta, go. You have 5 seconds.
Jilletta Jarvis 4nh.com.
That's perfect. That was perfect.
And we'll build on that next week. Gary, it's been mayhem.